Krishna Chaitanya Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitangscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostete Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. And a pranam mantra from the beginning of Sri Chaitanya-charitamrita. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Godo Daye Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamo Nudo. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon, Pushpavanta. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda, East Bengal. Let's see, Prema Sarovar, I think. I don't know, your microphone may be on, or maybe it's...
It's horrible. Israel's attention is becoming really dangerous.
Arunodaya maybe you're...
For Israel and for these people, Iranians.
And all it takes is the gold and all that lot to start getting involved.
There we go. Now she got it off. Okay. I offer my respectful obeisance unto Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who are like the sun and moon. They have arisen simultaneously on the horizon of Gauda to dissipate the darkness of ignorance and thus wonderfully bestow benediction upon all. Chitra. Chitra can mean artful, art, or can mean clever. So Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda are artful, and they are clever, and they are wonderful. And what do? Sangdao, they bestow. Shamdao, they bestow benediction. Tama nudao, they dissipate the darkness of ignorance. This ending on all these words, the A-U or ow sound, is because it's referring to two persons. So in Sanskrit, as also in Slovenian language, you have a dual case in addition to single and individual, single and plural, singular, plural. Excuse me, I'm just going to go close the door. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. Hare Rama Hare Rama. Rama Rama Hare Hare. Okay. And Pushpavanto, this is kind of intriguing me, and I kept meaning to look this up in the dictionary. How do we get this notion of, it's translated in the word for word as the sun and moon together. So I wonder about this. Let's see if we can find something. Pushpa Vaha, carrying flower. Pushpavahana, Pushpavana, name of a mountain. Pushpavat, having flowers or decorated with flowers. Okay. Pushpavat. Oh, here we go. Sure enough. Pushpavat, dual number, sun and moon. So it is affirmed. It's affirmed by good old Professor Monier Williams. Sun and moon. Yeah. Go to Udaye, arising in Gauda. Pushpavanto, the sun and the moon. Saha Udita, simultaneously arising. So that's a nice verse, a nice pranam mantra to learn if you're looking for a verse to learn. Pranam mantra. This is Chaitanya-charitamrita, Adi Līla, chapter 1, text number 2. Vande Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityanando Sahodito Godo Daye Pushpavanto Chitro Shando Tamo Nudo. Okay, I'm holding on to this microphone, but I think I'm going to try something. What if we put it here? This might work. No, false. Okay, that could work. All right. So let's go to our song. And our song for today is from Srila Narottama Das Thakur's Prarthana, śrī-rūpa-mañjarī-pada Vijnaptih, song number 1. Manjaryah. Okay. And just very briefly from the last previous song, I was struck by one line in the first verse. The whole verse translation is, O saintly Vaishnavas. This was Vaishnava Vijnaptih, song number 1. O saintly Vaishnavas, although I am very fallen and misbehaved, I still place this appeal before you. My destiny has plunged me, has thrown me in the fearsome ocean of repeated birth and death. And now comes the request. Please grab me by the hair and pull me to the opposite shore. And that's what it is. It says Keshe Dari. Keshe Dari More Koro Par. I suspect there should be an apostrophe there, so it becomes Dariya, having grabbed by the hair, Kesha, Keshe, More Koropara, make me to the other side. make me cross over. Yeah, I just thought that's kind of fun. Grab me by the hair. Maybe that would be an argument for devotees like me with short hair to grow long hair so that Krishna or the Vaishnavas can grab us by the hair. Then again, maybe it's enough if we have a shika. Anyway, all right. So, yeah, my mind became immersed enough. For this reason, I did not aspire. So this is a kind of lamentation song. But then at the very end, he says, Narottama das koi deki shuni lage boy taraya loho nija pasha. Now that I'm able to see, hear, and touch the Vaishnavas, I have become free from all fear. Deki shuni lage boy taraya loho nija pasha. Nija pasha. His own pasha. Pasha can mean animal. Take this your own animal, I think is what it says literally, which doesn't seem to be translated here. Okay, let's go to today's song. And I'll bring it down so that it doesn't look... Uh-oh, what happened now? Hello. Oh, went there. Okay. Okay, Radha Krishna a-sevon mui jīvane marane, taro sthān, taro līla, dekhoň rātri dine. I will serve Radha and Krishna during life and after death. I will see day and night the pastimes and see the places of pastimes. So this is I think it's a kind of expression of determination. This is my plan. This is what I'm going to do. My aim is to serve Radha and Krishna, not just in life, but also in death. Tara sthān, tara līla, dekhoň rātri dine. So we get life and death, and we also have day and night. What will Narottama Das do? He will observe dekhoň. He will see the sthāna, the places of their līla, of their pastimes. And what we're going to read about Narottama Das Thakur after this is about him going to and through places where Lord Chaitanya has been. Jai sthān, jai līla, kare jugala-kiśor, shakir shangini han, tahe han bhora. Wherever the pastimes of the young couple are being performed, jai sthān, jai līla, kare, I will be absorbed in them, of those two, jugala-kiśor. Shakir Shanginihan, as a girlfriend in the company of other girlfriends. Shakir Shanginihan, Tahehan Bora. Bora, I think, means in this case absorbed. Shakir Shanginihan, Tahehan Bor. This Han form, I'm not sure, this dekhoń, and I think it's a continuous verbal form, something like that. Like it's an ongoing thing. a-sevon, dekhoń, and then Han. Okay, verse 3. śrī-rūpa-mañjarī-pada a-sevon niravadi tara pāda-pado mantra mahaushadhi. Oh, I forever serve the feet of śrī-rūpa-mañjarī. Those lotus feet are my medicinal herbs and mantra. So near avadi. Avadi means something like a limit. Near avadi is without limit. So serving the padas, the feet of one of the manjaris. Which manjari? Rupa-mañjarī, who is Shri, which can mean lots of different things, but it has the sense of, when it's connected to a person, it usually indicates just as an honorific, in a sort of minimal way. It could mean, like in English, we say Mr. Jones, which I guess comes from master. But of course, it can mean Lakshmi, it can mean all things related to Lakshmi. So it could mean something like the blessed Rupa-mañjarī. Okay, then śrī-rati-mañjarī Devi more koradoya anukhan dehatua pāda-pado-chaya. O śrī-rati-mañjarī, O holy goddess, be merciful to me and constantly provide me shelter at your lotus feet. Okay, karadoya, do mercy, make mercy, be merciful. Anukana, so there's the Bengali pronunciation, and it's in this case been written also like that, transcribed. The Sanskrit would be anukshana, and kshana means a moment. Anukshana means ongoing moments, constantly. Deha tua pāda-pado-dhyān. Pāda-pada. Pāda-pada. Now, which one is feet and which one is lotus? Oh, it must be pada is feet and pado is from padma, pada-padma. And it becomes, in Bengali, pado. So actually, I think in transcription there would be P-A-D-D-O, paddo, because that's how Padma is pronounced. Then 5. Vrindavane nitya nitya jugala-vilāsa Prarthana karaye shoda Narottama Dasa. O śrī-rāsa-mañjarī. Where am I? No, I just missed a line. Sorry. Śrī-rāsa-mañjarī Devi kara a-sevon anukan dekhoň pāda-pado-dhyān. The second line is exactly the same as verse 4. Śrī-rāsa-mañjarī Devi kara a-sevon. So a-sevon in Sanskrit it would be avadhana. And there's, of course, in Bengali, the V becomes a B, abodan. And sometimes you'll hear in modern Bengali, shabdan, sha-avadan. So with attention or with, it can mean be careful. Shabdan, be careful. So be merciful to me. It's translated, okay, as be merciful. Give me attention, something like that. And constantly, anukan, provide dekhoň to a pāda-pado-dhyān, the shelter at your lotus feet. But now this word is dhyana. There was pāda-pado-chaya, the shade of the feet. And now it's dhyana, which means meditation, as far as I know. So grant me meditation on your lotus feet. So that's interesting. Vrindavan nitya, I should say, nitto. Vrindavane nitto jugala-vilāsa Prarthana karaye shoda Narottama Das. Okay. The couple's ongoing eternal pastimes, nitya, in Vrindavane, is always prayed for, or are always prayed for, by Narottama Das. Prarthana karaye shoda. Shoda means always. Jugala-vilāsa. Okay, that's nice. Shall we try to sing this? What do you think? Live audio on. Okay. Radha Krishna a-sevon jīvane maran sthāna līla dekhoň rātri dine bolon Radha Krishna a-sevon jīvane maran sthāna līla dekhoň rātri dine. Let's try the first line again. Radha Krishna a-sevon jīvane marane sthāna līla dekhoń rātri dine Radha Krishna a-sevon jīvane maran sthān līla dekhoń rātri dine sthān līla kare jugala-kiśor Sanga Sakir Sanginihan Tanhehan Bora sthāna līla kare jugala-kiśor Sakir Sangan Tanhehan Bora śrī-rūpa-mañjarī pāda-sevon pāda-pado-chaya mantra-makoshani śrī-rūpa-mañjarī pāda-sevon mantra-makoshani śrī-rati-mañjarī devi more korador anukanna dehotua pāda-pado-chaya śrī-rati-mañjarī devi more korador anukanna dehotua pāda-pado-chaya śrī-rāsa-mañjarī kara-abadhan anukanna dehotua pāda-pado-dhyān śrī-rāsa-mañjarī devi kori-abadhan anukanna dehotua pāda-pado-dhyān Vrindavane nitya jugala-vilāsa Prarthana kore Narottama Vrindavane nitya jugala-vilāsa Prarthana kore Narottama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Hari Okay, Prarthana ki jai. So this was a nice song of resolve, determination. Turn this off. Okay. Yeah, determination is a good thing in spiritual life. It's basically absolutely essential. Determination is needed to do anything, really, but especially in spiritual life. So we can take inspiration from Narottama Das Thakura, who is further described, or who is described in one particular text called the Narottama-vilāsa. Narottama-vilāsa, if I'm not mistaken, was written by Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. Is that right? If not, it should have been. No. I thought I'll read this track because using different books and traveling and on and off and so on. But I thought, okay, anyway, let's start from the beginning of the fourth Vilāsa of the Narottama-vilāsa, if no one objects. First of all, the author praises, he says, all glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita, Acharya, and all the devotees of the Lord. And he begs them to shower their mercy on him, whom he describes as a poor soul, a dine. All glories to the all-merciful listeners. Now listen attentively as I narrate this episode of Narottama-vilāsa. So the author is happy that we are here together and listening to. I wonder if he would have imagined that this would be translated into English language. He probably was not even aware that such a language existed. Okay, this is describing how Narottama, who is referred to here also as Sri Thakur Mahashoy. So Mahashoy is a kind of, I don't know, it seems to me a sort of Bengali honorific expression, kind of like Maha Maharaja, but it's Ashoya, Maha-Ashoya. So now he's on his way to Nīlāchala. What is Nīlāchala? Who wants to tell us what is Nīlāchala?
Jagannath-puri.
Yes, exactly. But what is an achala? It's a mountain, right? It's something which doesn't move, achala. But it's chala is moving, achala, and nila means blue. So it literally means blue mountain. But if you go to Puri, do you see any mountains there? Well, it seems that the temple is on a low, kind of a low incline, a small hill. So within the precinct of the temple walls, as I understand, it kind of goes up a little bit. And there's probably a story about it, how it was before a big mountain, but now it is what it is. So Narottama's mind was filled with loving thoughts of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what was the condition of his mind as he's traveling? He's absorbed in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in this absorption of thinking of Mahaprabhu, he goes the same route that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had formerly taken from Navadvip. He's going from Navadvip, Mayapur Navadvip, to Nīlāchala, to Jagannath Puri, and he's going by the same route. At night, he would stay in the same villages which the Lord had chosen as his resting place. And while he was in these places, he would discuss Krishna Katha with the local people, just as Mahaprabhu had done previously. So he's kind of reenacting what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been acting some generation before. Or more than a generation, or a generation. Okay, he's then sometimes he would meet someone who had personally met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he met such a person, his emotions just overflowed. He would cry uncontrollably, it says. I think that's understandable. Imagine you would meet someone who had directly and personally met, maybe spent time with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That would be amazing. Everyone who met Narottama was extremely pleased and immediately began to glorify him. And how would they glorify him? They would say, Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the most merciful and loving incarnation. Only one who is his great devotee is capable of displaying such divine attributes as we see in this handsome young man. So apparently Narottama was quite handsome. And they continue, just see how he how he walks gracefully, and how comforting it is just to simply to glance upon his face. They feel comforted just to see his face. In this way, they would express their enchantment, being in Narottama's presence. So this would happen when he would stay at some village on the way. He would stay overnight, and then the next morning, as he was leaving, crowds of local people would gather around him. It says here they swarmed around him. A swarm is what bees do. Bees, when they get very excited, and they usually fly very, very close to each other. That's called a swarm. They're swarming. So they swarmed around Narottama, and they would follow behind him as he started walking away. And then finally, they just keep walking and walking with him. And then he would stop and he would turn to them, and with sweet words, he would bid them farewell. So this is a slightly, it's not really old-fashioned English, but it's a little bit old-fashioned. To bid someone farewell is to say goodbye. I bid you farewell. And farewell, I think it means to travel well, to go safely. In German, in the Bavarian dialect, they have an expression, but nowadays no one says "für Gott." They just say "für." So "für Gott" means may God lead you. "Für dich Gott." But now they just say "für." Anyway, it's kind of like that. So he bids them farewell, Narottama, and he continues on his journey. And he doesn't stop except in those places where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu performed one or another of his pastimes, about which Narottama had heard so much. So one of these places that he came to was the place where Nityananda Prabhu had broken the sannyas danda of Sri Chaitanya. And when he came there, the local people told him this story. So apparently they were kind of, proud of, this is weird, in that place, that very place where Nityananda broke Mahaprabhu's danda. I think there's two places. It's a bit contended where this happened. And one of the places, there's an ashram which more or less is an ISKCON ashram. I say more or less because I think it's a little complicated. Okay, now, and aged Brahmana who was a great Vaishnava scholar happened to pass Narottama on the road. Let me move this down. Observing Narottama's devotional mood, suddenly something came to his mind. He slowly approached Narottama and asked mildly, "What is your name, my son? From where are you coming?" And then Narottama replies, and the Brahmana is his suspicion was confirmed. He had suspected this might be Narottama. So the Brahmin embraces Narottama with tears of ecstasy rolling down his face, and he says, "For so long I have heard about you, and I was cherishing the hope of one day meeting you. Today, Providence has shown its mercy upon me. I have just come from Kshetra, that is from Jagannath Puri, Purusha-sukta Kshetra, where I received the mercy of those associates of Prabhu, that is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are still alive in Nilachala. And now I have luckily found you here. With great pleasure, I heard them describe your glories while I resided there. I heard that you were bringing books from Vrindavan to Gauda. But unfortunately, they were stolen along the way. I also heard that you would soon be coming to Kshetra, and everyone was eagerly waiting for you. Gopinath Acharya and Kashi Mishra explained that Mahaprabhu had called for you when he visited the village of Ramakeli. At that time, Nityananda and other devotees were very happy, and since then, they're all eagerly waiting for you. Today, I have received the good fortune to meet you personally. But now you must not delay. Go as quickly as possible to Kshetra, and I shall meet you there later. So this was this unnamed Brahmana speaking. And what strikes me is that everyone in Kshetra, in Puri, are already anxiously waiting for Narottama. His reputation, his fame has gone before him, as we say. Yeah, so Narottama has, of course, been to Vrindavan, and then together with Srinivasacharya and Shamananda, he has brought the books as far as the place of Vanavishnupur, the place of Rajbir Hambir, and there the books were stolen and then eventually recovered by Srinivasacharya. But Narottama and Shamananda, as soon as the books were gone, were stolen, Srinivas said, "You two just go ahead to Bengal." They were already in Bengal, but go to their destination. They went to Ketari. And so all of this has happened, and now Narottama is on his way, I believe, from Ketari Gram in what's now Bangladesh on the Padma River. He's on his way now to Puri. Okay, the story continues. At that time, the Brahmana's son arrived there. He introduced his son to Narottama. So the Brahman introduced his son to Narottama and ordered him, the son, to accompany Narottama to Kshetra. The Brahmana then happily bade them farewell. Narottama took the dust of the feet of the Brahmana to his head and started his journey with the son of the Brahmana. And upon reaching Kshetra, Narottama and his companion observed the beauty of Lake Narendra. That's Narendra Sarovara. Remembering the Lord's pastimes sporting within the water there, Narottama was unable to hold back his tears. He quickly took his bath and hurried off toward the Lion Gate, the Singadvara. Okay, and at this point, I suggest that we pause until the next time. Srila Narottama Das Thakura ki jai. Okay, greetings to all of you again, all of you who have joined us a bit later. Thank you all for coming. Nice to see you. Let's see, who in particular are we? We're happy to see you all. Tirtharaj is there. Mahima Mai. Haridev is there. Jai Haridev. And Gauramitra. And Surya Kunda. And okay, good. Kike is also there. Hare Krishna Kike. How is life in Cordoba? He's there, but he's simultaneously there and is he there? Here he comes.
I'm here.
You're
I'm here in Cordoba.
You're in Cordoba?
Yes, I'm here in Cordoba.
Okay. Good. Everything all right?
Everything all right. Nanibas was visiting us a few weeks ago.
Who was visiting?
Jananibas.
Oh, yes. Yeah. He was making a whirlwind tour.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So let's see. What about sharing what I have to share? Oh, yes, before I forget. I'm happy to report that I'm almost finished with my third canto reflection. Almost finished means I'm, I think, 98% there. Little polishing. I still have to give it a title. But I think it came out fairly nicely. What I found was one thing is it's a nice challenge in a way because we're asking devotees to keep within 1,200 words. And some, you might hear that and think, "Ooh, that's a lot." No, it's not a lot. It's easy to, go on writing and writing this, that. But the challenge is to keep it compact. Make a point and move on. Yeah. Okay. So that's my bit of news. Any news from any of you if you want to share anything? I'm back. I should maybe you noticed from the background, I'm back at Sadhu-bhavan. I was traveling pretty much for the last 6 months, I guess. Let's see, April, May, June, July, August, September. Yeah, about 6 months. So it was good. It was good, and it's good to be back here where I am. Now that I'm back here, we will begin soon the process for me to apply for renewal of my legal residency in Poland. It's already almost 3 years since I got it for the last time, so I have to renew. And that's a bit of an ordeal. Forms to fill out, and probably have to visit the office in Warsaw and in this way do some rituals. Yeah. Okay. Well, what did I want to say? Anything more? Oh, I guess that's all for now. I'll think of something, but it'll be after. Last time I said to discuss this famous prayer of the Rig Veda called the Purusha-sukta. We had some preliminary points about it from this edition that I'm reading from Gaudapada Dasa. And he makes several interesting points about the idea of Purusha, what means Purusha. We're going to get more of that. He also refers to commentaries. Yes, he refers to the idea of Shodasha Kala. Shodasha means 16. Dasha is 10. Shoda is 16. 6. So 6 plus 10. Kala means portions or divisions. And we found that this has some relation to the Purusha. The Purusha is named Shodasha Kala. Why? Because he has 16 transcendental potencies. And these were listed in a book called the Bhakti Viveka, śrī-rūpa-mañjarī-pada, śrī-rūpa-mañjarī-pada, līla or nila, kanti, vidya, that's 7. Then there's 9 more. Vimala, utkarshini, jnana, kriya, yoga, pravi, satya, ishana, and anugraha. Okay, so 9 and 7 is 16, as much as I learned in primary school. Okay, so yeah, the Lord, we know this. The Lord has many energies. He has actually countless energies, but 16 are specified. And the point that's made about this is that there is an origin of these energies. So this is quite, it's, I think, in the context of New Age religion, which is so much about energies, but nothing about energetic. A lot of talk about energies in, just speaking very broadly, in New Age religion, but nothing about the energetic. But the energetic is spoken about already in the Rig Veda. Then there was mention of this Shodasha Kala in the Prashna Upanishad. What's going on in the Prashna Upanishad is that Bharadvaja asks a sage, Pipalada, about the significance of the Purusha's designation of Shodasha Kala. And then he answers, Pipalada answers, that these 16 worldly aspects originate in the Purusha. And here it's spelled out in this way. He created the life force, Mukhya Prana. From it came faith. That's interesting. The first thing that comes from after, which I presume is translating Shraddha. Then the 5 elements, the senses, the mind, food, strength, austerity, mantras, rites, that is, rituals, the worlds, and names. These are all according to Pipalada. And then he gave this analogy. We read this. Pipalada says, just as rivers whose goal is the ocean merge in the ocean after reaching it and are then called ocean, since their names and forms have come to nil, so these 16 aspects of his disappear after attaining him, the ultimate witness, and are called Purusha at that time, since their names and forms have come to nil. So I suspect this is a kind of etymology of the word Purusha, as being something about some sort of multiplicity coming to some sort of nil. In this edition, he gives the Sanskrit of this, but I don't know that we could understand from this how this etymology is working. Then Pipalada said that these 16 aspects are in him, the wheel of time, like spokes are on the wheel of a vehicle. Okay, so we got 2 analogies. we get rivers flowing into an ocean, and we get spokes of a wheel, and they're quite different sorts of analogies. But the first of these may sound a bit like impersonalism to us. Merging into an ocean, and then all of these distinctions disappear. But I don't think we have to take it that way. I think we can appreciate the emphasis being that there is a singular source of all of these varieties. And when one reaches that source, then that source, Purusha, is referred to here as the ultimate witness. It's the person who witnesses everything that's going on. And so being, having realized that person, we could say these, all the different varieties they're secondary. What's important is that there is this source, and he is the original subjectivity. He is the original subject. And then the other analogy is related to the idea that Purusha is equated with time, the wheel of time. Time is here understood not to be linear, but circular, cyclical. And that is quite significant. Time has a way of repeating. Just as a wheel, it turns around and around and around and around. And wheels, at least old-fashioned wheels, they had spokes. But even if it's a modern wheel, it has some way of holding the outer rim to a central hub. So this is a wheel which has these spokes. And what are the spokes? They are these 16 energies. So in this case, the analogy is suggesting that these energies are serving, they're integral to the functioning of this rolling wheel, which is time, which is continuous, and which is the supreme Purusha. Okay. Well, I'm gonna. Did we talk about the commentators? No, I don't think we did. There are traditional commentators to the Rig Veda, and one of these is Shonaka, who is the author of the Rig Veda Pratishakya, and so on. And he says, Dr. Shiva Shankar, he is the who's written or who has compiled the commentaries into a book called Purusha-sukta Bhasya Sangraha. He says that Shonaka lived during the time of Yudhishthira, 3,000 years before the modern era. Okay. And then Max Müller. You all know who is Max Müller. Max Müller was a scholar at Oxford University in the late 19th century, I guess. who was, he was a professor of Indology, you could say. He never went to India. He was from Germany. He came to England, eventually became this professor. And he became famous for compiling, for bringing together this collection of books from the East, from India and from East Asia, and it was called the Sacred Books of the East. And he also commissioned a transcription. Did it have a translation? I don't think so. I don't know. Of the Rig Veda. And it was the first time that the Rig Veda was printed, as far as I know. I remember reading that when the Indian pundits heard that, you know, these Westerners have now printed our Rig Veda, there were two very different reactions. One of them was, well, this is the beginning of the end. That, you know, the printing of the Rig Veda. You don't print the Rig Veda. The Rig Veda is heard, memorized, chanted. You don't print it and read it. So some were saying that, and other Brahmins, pundits, were rejoicing. They said, oh, this is wonderful. It's great. Finally, it's going to, you know, become, I don't know, part of world literature, whatever. Okay, that was Max Muller. Yeah, one could say a lot about Max Muller, but we'll save that. Yeah, it says lots of details here about Shonaka. He says, it does not concern us at present whether Shonaka, the author of the Kalpa Sutra, was the same as Shonaka, the chief of the sages, first, that is Naimisharanya, to whom during the great 12-year sacrifice, Ugra Shravas, who is generally referred to in the Bhagavatam as Sutta Goswami, related the Mahabharata and who became the teacher of Shatanika, the son of Janamejaya. Okay, so we don't know if they're the same. Then, let's see. There's another commentator, and his name is Uvata, and he lived around 1050 of the Common Era, so about 1,000 years ago. He was a Kashmiri, and he comments on the Rik Pratishakya of Shonaka and a couple of other texts, and he lived in Avanti, that is Ujjain, under the patronage of King Bhoja. So King Bhoja is kind of famous. Bhoja had a lot to do with poetry and poetics, and I think he wrote about Sanskrit poetry, poetic theory and stuff. More details. Most scholars agree that Uvata was the brother of Mammata and of Kayata. Okay. Okay. The next commentator is Venkatamadeva, 10th to 12th centuries. When I read something like that, 10th to 12th century, you know, that's 200 years. I mean, the whole history of the United States is not much more than 200 years. And most people living in America have a hard time imagining anything happening anywhere 200 years, more than 200 years ago. Okay, Venkatamadeva wrote 2 commentaries on the Rig Veda. Okay, good. Then there's Ranganath Muni, who was a Sri Vaishnava, which means follower of Ramanujacharya. He wrote a commentary on the Sri-sukta. Doesn't say he wrote on the Purusha-sukta. Then we have Sayana, a South Indian Vaishnava who lived in, finally we get some exact dates, 1316 to 1387 of the Common Era. He is the most widely known commentator on the Vedas. And then it lists some other things that he wrote. And tells, he was under 2 kings of the Vijayanagar Empire. More than 100 works are attributed to him. So, prolific writer. Commentaries on nearly all parts of the Veda, but some were done by his students. Some with his brother Madhava or Vidyaranya Swami. Yeah, so the main idea seems to be that Sayana kind of includes his brother and maybe someone else, maybe some students. So it's kind of a collective authorship of this commentary. Okay, then there's Ranga Ramanuja, 13th century, roughly, a Sri Vaishnava. And he wrote a commentary specifically on the Purusha-sukta, which is almost the same as Ranganath Muni's explanation. There is a 16th century commentator, Mahidara, who lived in Varanasi, and he wrote something called the Mantra Mahodari around 1588, and Veda Deepa. Then, now we come to the 19th century, Swami Dayananda Saraswati, a Brahmin from South India, born in 1825. He was the founder of the Arya Samaj. If you've heard of the Arya Samaj, sometimes you will meet members of the Arya Samaj or people who are more or less sympathetic to the Arya Samaj. This is an organization established, as it's said here, by Dayananda Saraswati, with the idea his idea was sort of back to the Veda, that there's been too much sort of degradation of the tradition, and the thing to do is to go back to the original Rig-sama-yajura Veda. I don't know what he had to say about the Upanishads. Yeah, the Brahmo Samaj, which also was started in the early 19th century, they were mainly interested in the Upanishads. He's famous for his commentary on Unadi Sutra. I don't have the slightest idea what the Unadi Sutra is. Okay, that's all preliminary information. The rishi for the Purusha-sukta is Narayana. And the presiding deity is the Purusha. And then he says, in essence, the Purusha-sukta describes the simultaneous difference and non-difference between the Lord and the universe, and between the Lord and the souls. The Purusha-sukta also emphasizes that everything belongs to Vishnu. Thus, the world primarily exists for his enjoyment. Okay, that's, in any case, our author's interpretation of what the Purusha-sukta is about. So we can very quickly read the first of the 16 sutras. One moment. I want to get two translations. 25. Oh, that's not it. Whoops. Oh, here it is, 65. Okay. Okay, here it is, the first verse. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabumim Vishvato Vritva Atyatishtatashangulam. The Purusha has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet. Encompassing the universe, he rules. And then in brackets, pervading the place that measures, in brackets, 10 fingers. So there's already a lot of strange things in this verse. Someone having 1,000, not 1,000, but thousands of heads and eyes and feet. And then this person is encompassing the universe, and he is ruling, pervading the place that measures 10 fingers. Sabumim, Bhumim refers to the earth or the universe, and Vishvata means everywhere. And Vritva is covering, sort of having covered, having surrounded Ritva. Ati atishtat. He ruled, or he stayed beyond. This is in the word for word that Gaudapada gives. And then just, it says atyatishtat and then dasha angulam. So an angulam is a finger. And dasha is 10, so 10 fingers. So it's rather cryptic. Vishvato Ritva Atyatishtat Dashangulam. He's ruling or staying beyond 10 fingers, it seems like it's saying. But here the translator is adding, presumably based on commentaries, pervading the place that measures. But that still leaves a big question mark. What does that mean, a place of 10 fingers? All right, let's read another translation. This is from one Dr. Michael Myers, who many years ago wrote a book called Let the Cow Wander, with a subtitle, Modeling the Metaphors in Veda and Vedanta. This was a small monograph from University of Hawaii Press. And it's quite interesting book. So his translation is, because he translates the whole the whole Purusha-sukta and then discusses each sutra in a couple of paragraphs each. His translation, 1,000-headed is Purusha, 1,000-eyed, 1,000-footed. He, having covered the earth on all sides, stood above it, the width of 10 fingers. He stood above the earth, the width of 10 fingers. All right. As we say in English, that's clear as foggy day. So Myers, let's see what Myers says about this first. He says that this first verse of the Purusha-sukta begins with an extended metaphor. So he wants to say this is metaphorical language. He says, Purusha, he quotes, Purusha is 1,000-headed, 1,000-eyed, 1,000-footed. The number 1,000 stands for innumerable. And we can say that indeed this is confirmed by Jiva Goswami. Somewhere he explains that thousands, sahasra, can mean innumerable. Okay, I'm just looking for footnotes. Well, notes at the end of each chapter. Yes, okay. Anyway, so then he says, the attributions of innumerable heads, eyes, and feet to Purusha identifies him with all created beings. So to say that the Purusha has thousands of heads, etc., is to say that he is identified with all living beings, all created beings. Then he says the word Purusha, and here he has a little accent mark on the first syllable. Purusha means man, person, man or person, therefore, well, it gets pretty technical here. The tenor, the sort of the flavor of the metaphor is the second order idea of a cosmic person. Okay, we better not go too far into this. The vehicle, so he's using technical language about metaphor here. What is a metaphor? A metaphor is a word or an expression that crosses a boundary of conventional meaning. It connects two domains of thinking, and the metaphor itself is a vehicle, or it has a vehicle. So he says the vehicle is the description of his pervasiveness in human or animate beings. Taken together, the metaphor begins the specification of Purusha. Okay, so there's some vague idea. Purusha means man, means person. Now, but we're having some poetry here which is descriptive, and it's now specifying who is this Purusha, how to understand this Purusha. So he says, if you take these two aspects together, the tenor and the vehicle, the flavor of the metaphor, and that it's about a cosmic person together with the vehicle, the idea of there being the vehicle being a description of this Purusha's pervasiveness. So it's a cosmic person and he's pervasive. Okay. Bring those two together and we start to specify who is this Purusha. It is one of the hymn's tasks, it's one of this Purusha-sukta's tasks to undertake this specification, okay, which will yield the meaning of Purusha, both as cosmic person and as human being. So there's going to be a double meaning, apparently, to the idea of Purusha in the Purusha-sukta. All right, I know it's getting a little technical, and some of you are wondering, where is the Swami going with all of this? Right? Well, as I may have said before we started this, I'm thinking that I may eventually do a study of the idea of Purusha in the Bhagavata Purana as related to the Rig Veda, specifically the Purusha-sukta, since there is a kind of echo of the parts of the Purusha-sukta in Canto 2, Chapter 6. So we'll see. Okay, having having Purusha-sukta for a while. I think it's time to go to Chaitanya-charitamrita. Let's see. Okay. Anandamayi writes in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 8, universal form is called Adidaiva, super soul is called Adiyagya, the Lord of Sacrifice. Could I elaborate on this? Well, for now, only to say that these are, you could translate Adidaiva as the principle of divinity, something like that, and Adiyagya as the principle of yagya. That's my understanding. But then again, we could look, where am I? Here it is. We could see what our Monier Williams has to say. Well, for Adidaiva, he just says a presiding or tutelary deity, the supreme deity, the divine agent operating in material objects. Yeah, Adi itself, I think, means superior. Let's see. Yeah, it expresses above, over and above, or besides. So Adidaiva, yeah, I think still one could say the principle or the supreme, the highest principle of Purusha, of Daiva, of divinity, because Daiva comes from Deva, so it's also an abstraction. It's not Adideva, it's Adidaiva. It's the principle of divinity, so the highest principle of divinity, something like that. Kaveri asks about the 10 fingers. Could it mean, metaphorically speaking, he could hold his, yeah, it could be that. I think the number of speculations about the 10 fingers are, it's a very high number. One that I'm recalling just now is it's the distance, if you sort of hold 10 fingers parallel to each other, it's the distance, from the voice to the heart, something like that. Also, another one is you stand outdoors in someplace where you see, where it's very flat and you see the horizon, and you hold 10 fingers like this, parallel, and line up the bottom with the horizon. Then you look up 10 fingers. In other words, he is beyond. He is beyond this world. So I think the general sense is he pervades, he encloses, and he is beyond. So it comes back to what Gaudapada says, that this is about being, it's about achintya, without saying achintya, but it's about difference and non-difference of the Supreme with and or from and with the world. How did he put it? Yeah, the simultaneous difference and non-difference between the Lord and the universe. Yamunamrita. Which Rig Veda translator would you suggest to read for the beginners? I saw that there is some number of translators of Rig Veda. Yeah, there's a relatively recent translation by Stephanie Jameson and what's his name? Something Brereton, published by Harvard University Press. All of the, I can't say all, the references that I've read recently have referring in some way to the Rig Veda, it seems like they all are using this translation. The scholars, present-day scholars, are using this translation of Stephanie Jameson and whatever his name is, James Brereton. I don't remember his first name. Yeah. Okay. I feel that unless we read at least one or two verses of Chaitanya-charitamrita, we will have been neglectful. So I think it's time to do that. Here we go. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. I think we stopped at Adi Līla chapter 16, verse 81, continuing the discussion by Nimai Pandit with the professor Keshava Bhatta, Keshava Kashmiri. And maybe before we read this verse, we should again look at the Pandit's verse, which Mahaprabhu is commenting on. So that's here. Mahatvam Gangaya Satatam Idama Bhatinitaram Yadesha Shri Vishnos Charana Kamalot Pati Suvaga Vitiyashri Lakshmir Ivasuranar Archacharana Bhavani Bharturya Shirasi Vibhavatyad Bhutaguna. The greatness of Mother Ganga always brilliantly exists. She is the most fortunate because she emanates from the lotus feet of Sri Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. She is a second goddess of fortune, and therefore she is always worshipped both by demigods and by humanity. Endowed with all wonderful qualities, she flourishes on the head of Lord Shiva. And Mahaprabhu says, Ishara achintya shakti gangara prakash ihate virodha nahi virodha abhas. In this birth of the Ganga, by the inconceivable potency of the Lord, there is no contradiction, although it appears contradictory. And let's see, Prabhupada explains. So Prabhupada is speaking about inconceivable potency. That's interesting. He says the central point of all Vaishnava philosophy is to accept the inconceivable potency of the Lord Vishnu. So one could say, speaking perhaps in somewhat philosophical language, that this is an axiom. An axiom is a foundational point or idea about which one cannot argue, about which there's no way to make an argument whether or not it's true, because you would need to refer to other axioms in order to either support or refute the axiom. So an axiom is sort of, you could say it's rock bottom principle, which is accepted. So in all Vaishnava philosophy, you could say step one is to accept the inconceivable potency of Lord Vishnu. And because of his inconceivable potency, he can perform contradictory activities. And then he talks about the scientists and their confusion. They explain water is a combination of hydrogen and oxygen. But where is this hydrogen and oxygen coming from? And how it comes to manufacture the oceans, they cannot answer. And then he gets to one of his favorite points. The atheists will not accept that everything comes from life. And their thesis is that life comes from matter. If you're not aware of it, I may have mentioned this before, but some of you may be interested in the website of my godbrother Akandadi Prabhu, the Atma Paradigm, which is probably atmaparadigm.org or something, where he has many videos explaining Vaishnava understanding with relation to science and modern science and philosophy of science. He's very active in this work. Yeah, then Prabhupada asks, so where do all the chemicals come from? The answer is simple. They come from the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the scientist doesn't like the idea of something being inconceivable. It must be something we can conceive. No, it's inconceivable. And then he gives an example which he would many times give, the lemon tree. Lemon tree produces what? Produces lemons. Within each lemon, there's so much citric acid. So he's saying, how did that citric acid come about? It was produced by a living entity. And that living entity is simply a part of the supreme living entity, the Supreme Lord. And then he gives, he doesn't use the term, but it's naimutya nyaya, or an argument from something lesser to something greater. If but a part of the Supreme Lord can produce so much of a chemical, how much potency there must be in the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I think the Latin term for naimutya nyaya is a fortiori, an a fortiori argument, which makes me want to look up a fortiori. Let's see. Don't mind, but you're very patiently, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Patiently taking part in my research inclination. Okay, argumentum a fortiori. So it's an argument from the stronger reason. It's a form of argumentation that draws upon existing confidence in a proposition to argue in favor of a second proposition that is held to be implicit in and even more certain than the first. Yes, so that fits very well with. So Prabhupada's saying, if even an insignificant living entity who is but a part of the Supreme Lord if an insignificant living entity can produce so much of a chemical. So that's the proposition which has existing confidence. So we all have confidence that lemon trees produce lemons, and we know that lemons have citric acid. So we're going from that idea about which we have confidence, that proposition, to one which is even more certain. How much, Prabhupada says, how much potency there must be in the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, of course, the atheist will say, well, you're making a big assumption here. Your assumption is that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead and that from him the lemon tree is coming. So this argument really works for the theist. Would it work for an atheist? Not very likely, because they will say, well, I don't accept your assumption that there is, you're going backwards, he will say. But the point of this is to suggest suggest how it's possible to understand the process of origination of what we see. What we see is so many chemicals, so much matter. And we see in one sample of this a production of a particular chemical from something which is living. And if we challenge the notion that something living can come from dead matter, then we can open up to the possibility that there is a supreme living being from which all living beings come. And then we can start to understand how from viewing a small potency, we could get an idea how great the greater potency is. I don't know if that made any sense. Let's read one more verse. Ambujam ambuni jatam. Okay, it's a Sanskrit verse. Ambujam ambuni jatam kvachit api na jatam. Whoops. Ambujad ambu. Oh, this should be divided up more. Ambujam ambuni jatam kvachit api na jatam ambujad ambu. That's very strange. Murabidi tat viparitam padam bhujan mahanadi jata. Okay. Everyone knows that lotus flowers grow in the water, but water never grows from a lotus. All such contradictions, however, are wonderfully possible in Krishna. The great river Ganges has grown from his lotus feet. Okay, so this is just explaining what might be seen as a problem, as being a contradiction, and we're being reassured that there's no problem. Why? Because all contradictions are resolved in the Lord, and he can have such kind of lotus feet that produces water. But the point is, there's a kind of playfulness going on, I think, in the verse, and getting it. Yadesha Sri Vishnu's Charana Kamalotpatti Subhaga. He's appreciating that, well, this normally wouldn't make any sense, but because it's about Lord Vishnu, it makes sense. Let's read that previous verse again. In this birth of the Ganga by the inconceivable potency of the Lord, there is no contradiction, although it appears contradictory. Virodha nahi, virodha abhasa. It seems it's a reflection, an abhasa. It's a semblance of a contradiction, but it's not a contradiction. Okay, and then we got this verse that says, with the example of lotus flowers, since we're talking about lotus feet, in the case of the Lord, this is the lotus flower. Everything, it's all wonderfully possible in Krishna. Murabidi tadviparitam. Let's see. Murabidi, in Krishna, the killer of Mura. Tatviparitam. It's Adambujan Mahanadi Jata. This great river, Mahanadi, jata, has grown, has been born. It doesn't tell us, this looks like a quote from something, but it doesn't say what it's a quote of. Right, and here we are, it's already that time. So I think we can stop there. I think we can stop there for today, and we can see. Yes, I think we can also have our session next week. Whoever wants to come, you're welcome. And so I'll just say, have a very nice rest of the day and weekend and next and week, and keep well, keep swell, keep safe, and keep sane. And as always, chant and be happy. And many thanks to our translators, Anastasia and Daitesha, and who else is translating?
Tira Lalita and Prema Sarovara.
Tira Lalita and Prema Sarovara. Yeah, it's a big job to translate. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Samaveta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna.
Gaur Krishna.
Jai.